welcome. I'm going to show you a demonstration of the Lavastorm Fraud Manager. The Lavastorm Fraud Manager is a comprehensive fraud management system, an FMS, that allows you to analyze data from any source, investigate hypotheses to discover new patterns and root causes, identify fraudulent activity in real time, and manage workflows that eliminate threats. The Lavastorm Fraud Manager takes an entirely new approach to fraud management. Based on an analytic platform that is completely adaptable, Lavastorm Fraud Manager provides the CSPs with an agile fraud management system that offers unprecedented speed, flexibility, and empowers CSPs to uncover and minimize known and future fraud risk faster than ever before. So what you're looking at right now is the analyst UI of the Lavastorm Fraud Manager. And before I start the demonstration, I want to talk a bit about the difference between cases and alarms. So what we're looking at right now is an alarm screen which groups the alarm on a certain value or field. In this case, a subscriber number. This could easily be any other field of your data source or any data source. The difference here between the case and alarms is that in the Lavastorm Fraud Manager, you have the ability to either get the alarms grouped by a certain field, or the alarms can be automatically pushed into a case. And the case will also have the same group, in this case the A subscriber number, grouping the case. And in the installation, you can actually pick either one. Or in a certain case, you might want to see only alarms, and in other cases, you route the alarms into cases. So I'm going to start with the alarm manager of the analyst UI. The alarms are grouped, in this case, on a subscriber number. If I click on a row, all the alarms for that specific A subscriber number will be shown to me in different fields. These fields can be altered and could be any of the fields you choose to have as a detail level. And if I hit one of these levels, then the actual details of the alarm will appear in the third box, and it would actually tell me the real value of the field, which has a threshold on it, and the conditions. So in this case, if the amount is greater than 0, then an alarm should be triggered. In this case, it was 24, so it's well above 0, and that's why it alarmed. If I click on the details, I will see some of the details, and these are, you can select how many fields you want to see of the details. It could be the full CDR, 200 fields, or less. As in this case, I've just picked these 3. So what you can do here is you can browse down the list of the different alarms, and you can actually transfer these into a case. A new case, or you can transfer them to an already existing case if you want. You can also do other things. So by right-clicking on any of the fields here, you get certain options. You can, for instance, add this specific subscriber number to a hot list. You can run a query, or you can do a lookup on the reference data to see more information about this subscriber number. In this case, I'm going to run a query. This query that I'm going to run is, we call it template queries. And the interesting thing about template queries is that in the UI, I can actually set up a query, whatever query I want on any data source. And then I pick a field to filter on, in this case, subscriber number. And then I say, make this a template query, which means that throughout the system, if you right-click on a subscriber number, the system will know that this is a subscriber number and there is a already stored query for this. So I'm going to insert the field into that query and run it for you. So in this case, if I hit run query, go out and try to find, is there any subscriber number queries out there that I can use? And it is. So I'm going to pick the usage by a number, and it will show me the number that I right-clicked on, and then give me options for dates. So I can change dates here for whatever I want. So if I want to do seven days worth of data, or 30 days worth of data, or more, I can do that. Press OK, it will open up a new screen, and it will give me the usage. And in this case, what I can do is I can, and throughout all the active and non-active screens will be up here. What I can do, I can actually drag one of these to the alarms, which means that the system will split the screens in two. I will have my active query over here, where I can rerun the query using other fields as filters, or go even further back. And at the same time, I can look at my alarms. I can do this with 3 different screens. I'm going to unhook those. So that's basically the things you can do with the alarms. So there's a lot of potential here to query and investigate on the certain fields that, or certain subscribers or accounts that alarm. And also, when I'm done with it, I can open up a new case or transfer it to an old one. So now let's move into the case section. So in this case, we assume that we set up alarms, they have been triggered, and automatically created lots of cases. You can also pick, when you set up the alarm rules, that new alarms should open cases and put them in a certain folder, which means that you could have a user structure where some users are only looking at PABX hacking alarm, and other ones are looking at international revenue share fraud alarms, and it's a specific group of people that is investigating those two. So the structure you see in front of you is not set by the fraud manager itself. It can be altered. So over here, I can do a lot of things. I can create folders, edit folders, can move them around, and I can delete them, of course, if I have the appropriate access rights. So in this case, I'm looking into a folder called Under Investigation, and I'm going to open up one of these cases. And what happens when we open it up is that the fraud manager also has the ability to link alarms and detail records with the subscriber that owns those detail records or alarms. So when the case is created automatically, it will also go out and look in the customer database to find a match, and then put fields from the customer information into the case. And those will be shown in the first detail section of the case here. And what you see in front of you is fully, they could be any fields actually. It doesn't need to be these fields. It can be fewer or more fields. It all depends on what you want. So this is not set. This is flexible. You see some things about the main suspect, address, name, the dealer code, if there's an outstanding debt, and also some of the things that you've done in the case, which is added a motive, maybe added a network, and some notes. You also see the information when it was created, modified, so on. The other thing that is shown in this first step of the investigation is the workflow. So in this case, as you can see, the workflow item, which is here, has 4 different task groups. These are case classification, case owner, additional case information, and autocorrect case. This workflow is completely flexible and can be changed to fit your profile and how your team wants to work with cases and investigations. So you actually can set up your own workflow in the administration folder up here, or tab. In this case, we review alarms, some details, maybe call the subscriber to see that they're aware of their abusive behavior or that it's happening. So basically, if I start my investigation, I would have a workflow to comply to. And I can then, of course, add certain actions. Well, I did the alarm check, so now it's complete. You can also perform certain actions. So, and I will show you a bit more about that later on. But you can perform actions. So there is an API to the system where you can add actions to be taken manually and automatically, which could be suspend the subscriber, send an SMS, deactivate, reopen a subscription, and so on. So all of that is flexible and in this workflow. I'm going to go to the next tab. The next tab, as you can see, looks a lot like the alarms before. It's just that the grouping section, we go back to the alarm, this summary or grouping section of the alarm is not available because the case is already grouped by this subscriber number. So it's the same as we saw in the alarm section. You would have the description of the alarm and why it broke the rule and the details. And over here, I can do the same type of queries I did previously. I can run a query on the subscriber number and see if there's a template query available to me, add to hot list, and then do reference data checks as well. The interesting thing about any investigation of fraud, of course, is to link the usage patterns or abusive usage patterns with a person or a company, which makes the whole profile complete. So in this case, the linkage between the usage and the customer is done automatically in the Fraud Manager. So what I'm presented with when I open up my investigation is a bunch of suspects. And in this case, the system has targeted one suspect, which is the suspect that owns the CDRs or usage that actually triggered an alarm. The other suspects have a linkage with the main suspect in either an account, contract number, or a name or an address. That's why you see multiple individuals here. And that's the same as in the details section. You would have details of this subscriber and the subscription. And as I mentioned previously, these fields could be many more. And you can also group them in different sections, and this is fully flexible. So if you want to use other terms, that is flexible, and you do that in the administration section. But basically, I see my suspect, and I can then do certain things. I can find similar suspects in my case database, and it will go out and find similar suspects to this suspect. I can view them. I can query them. I can also do another thing which I haven't shown you, which is to right-click and say reference data. What will happen then is that I have certain reference data items, which is customer information, dealer information. I could have summaries of data. It could basically be any type of data which is stored in a database. And I can run certain queries on that data using any of these fields. As I right-click on the last name, I want to do a lookup on the last name. So when I do that, I get a bunch of Smiths in the system. And of course, I have the details of the Smiths. The other option I get is these different tabs, which basically are built by setting them up in the administration section. So basically, you could say, whatever I click on in this list here, take any or all the fields and do a lookup on an external website, on an internal portal, or anything like that. So you could actually do a real-time lookup into your CRM system or a portal. You could also map address, which is it's my name for going out, and taking the address and looking at it from a map perspective. Because we all know that fraudsters sometimes are linked because of where they live in the same apartment building, but it could be multiple street addresses for the same building. So in a case investigation, you might want to look where this area is. It could also be a fraudulent area of a neighborhood which has a lot of fraud to it. And at the same time, I can also do a Facebook search, taking the first and last name, go out on Facebook, and then try to find the different people. And this could be really anything. It could be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or you could just take the name and do a Google search on it. So it's basically for the analyst to help out in the investigation, to find out more about who this person is and figure out if the calling patterns that you see make sense with the person or company. The last section of the case includes attachments. And here you can basically pin down attachments for queries, results, or external attachments, which could be police report or anything like that, that you want to store if you want to go to court and prosecute a fraudster. And this is important, that the system can take any type of file and put it in the case as a attachment. Throughout the case, you can also do certain things, other things than query any data. You can export it to export information, maybe take the alarms to Excel. You can reroute, have routing rules which says if any of these criteria is true, then route those alarms into this case as well. You can also set a master case if you have multiple cases that are linked to one another. So they are now linked into one master case. And specifically why that is interesting is if it's a dealer that is involved in multiple fraud. The other thing you can do is, of course, do queries, look at reports, and alter, change the different hot lists, workflow items, and customer information, fields, and so on in the administration. And throughout the interface, wherever you are, there's also a help that will guide you and take you to the exact location and give you or take you through the steps, how to complete a certain task, or help you or guide you through a specific screen or function. and it will give you the concept of cases and then some other details which are interlinked with investigating a case. So that's a short introduction of the Analyst UI. What I will do now, I will take you through some simple steps on how to create your own rules and alarms and the options you have there. This is mainly done in the client or administration client of the Fraud Manager. So in the Fraud Manager administration client, you can monitor all the data being read. You can add new readers, data readers for new formats. You can add reference data. You can add alarms, scoring, rating, and so on. So in this UI, normally there is a few people working in here and lots of people working in the Analyst UI. This is the alarm section. So this is where you define the different alarms. I'm going to jump into a scanning alarm, which is basically a real-time alarm. Once the data is read into the system, this alarm is triggered in the reading process. So the first thing you see is, or that you want to do when you set it up, is to name it. The other thing is that you can activate or inactivate a certain alarm and give it a level of severity. If this alarm is triggered, then the severity is high or low or medium. You can also write a description. The other thing you could do is, of course, add notification on email or SMS to any of the user or user groups that have access to the system. You can also say which of the user groups or users that can actually look or investigate these cases. In some cases, it's when it's internal fraud or it's a sensitive alert or behavior you're looking for, then you want to add certain user to that group only. The next tab will include what type of record do I want to use. And in this case, I only have one, which is the mobile usage record. I'm going to use that. The third thing is the conditions. And the condition here is you can use any of the fields for that specific data source to create your rule. So it can be, you can use any of the different fields to create your rule. In my rule here, I have duration greater than 1,000 and country by B number, which is an enrichment on the destination number that the system will create to give you the exact country. And then I've created a hot list for it called hot countries. But I can easily add more rules to this specific rule if I want to, and I can also add or conditions. So it's either this rule or another rule. And I can add as many as I want here. So it's extremely flexible in terms of setting up rules. The next thing I can do is add the custom action. And this is what I talked about when I went through the workflow, which is you can add the custom actions as a manual action or as an automated action. If I set it up on a specific rule or alarm, it will be automatically triggered. The summarize by field has to do with what should I group this case on or alarm when it's created. Do I want to group it on subscriber number or account? And secondly, I can also say create case rule is basically, is it automatically creating a case or no? I can also automatically add it to a hot list as well. The other thing I can do in the summarize by is I can actually add it to, if I configure this, and say that I want it to be automatically created. The system also lets me pick which folder to use. So where does this case end up in? Which folder when it's triggered? And this could be good if you want certain users to work on certain types of cases. And then when I'm done, I just press OK, and then the alarm is activated. One of the other things I can do for these alarms, I can test it. So before I actually put it into production, I can say, okay, but I'm going to test it on this date range or on these files and see how many alarms were to be created if I actually had it in production. And then I execute the tests. I can update my alarm definitions. But the other thing I can do is I can say, okay, this is really interesting to me. So I'm going to actually make these test alarms real alarms and create real cases, because it's a new alarm or rule that I set up, and it showed me really interesting results. I can execute it, and it will automatically be creating cases for me to investigate or my team to investigate. The other thing I can do is I can apply it to historic data, which means if this is a new rule that I set up today, I can make it work on historic data for as many months or weeks worth of data I have in my database. And that is how you would create a simple rule or alarm rule in the system and put it in production. And that is what I was thinking of showing you today. Thank you.